What's up, everybody? Real Estate Momentum right here today on a Friday, and I've got my friend Chris Rogers from AEH Accounting, and we're here to talk to you about what's going on in his world today. What's up, Chris?
Not much. How are you, Aaron?
Good.
Yeah.
What you don't know is Chris is the Scott High School men's head coach for their soccer team, and this was your first year?
So it's my 7th year as a coach in the program. It's my first year as head coach.
How did that impact you this year? Did it take a lot of your time away, or was it something you were already doing? And
yeah, I mean, it's relatively new, right? So we're just getting into the beginning of the season, right? So from a time perspective, there's really not going to be much of a shift, right? As I've been in the program for the last 6 years, so the time commitment's the same from that perspective. Now it's just hey, how do we lead a program? How do we lead coaches, right? Because it's not just players. You have players and coaches.
Yeah, now that you're the head coach, you
Right.
got to make sure that the assistants are in the right place. You got to make sure the kids are in the right place.
So the nice part is, actually, we brought back 2 of the assistant coaches from last year.
Nice.
Both are really high-quality coaches. We brought back a former Scott head coach to be one of the assistant coaches, and another one who was an assistant a couple years ago. So the entire staff has experience. They all work well together. And honestly, the way we're doing this, it's not, hey, yeah, there's a head coach, but everybody's leading a part of the program, right? You got fitness, you got communication, you've got equipment. So it's everybody's going through that. And then really we've got one guy that's going to sit there and just kind of write programming for us too.
Yeah. Well, so that in one way, that makes us very similar. We're both business owners. We're both involved in some form of fitness or athletics.
Yep.
And we both own multiple businesses. So that's going to lead me into what I find most, I guess it's inspiring, and it's fun to watch. The fact that you just acquired another accounting firm, you're growing your business. So I guess give us a little background on that, because it's good to see a small business, AEH Accounting, growing, and you basically, it was a win-win for you and the partner that you bought out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd been on my mind for probably a good 2 years. Like, how do I grow faster, right? You can always do organic growth, but within this industry, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it is more difficult to have kind of rapid organic growth. So then what's the next step? The next step is growth through acquisition. Right. 70% of existing firm owners are approaching retirement age. So there's a wealth of practices that are out there available, and there's not a retirement plan in place for most of these guys. So they have to sell, or the client just kind of move on to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that was step one, is identifying the right, the pool that qualifies for that. Step 2 is then what's the right fit. Now, one could argue the right fit is right here in Florence, Kentucky, because I live 10 miles from this place.
Right.
Or do I look where there's more market opportunity? And I looked at that and said, I want to serve a community that's underserved, and that's the rural community. So I found a practice in kind of way east Cincinnati, right? So it's about 30 minutes east of downtown. The market out there is relatively underserved. There's only 2 other firms within a 2-mile radius of me.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unbox there for anybody who's watching this who is business minded and you're looking for an opportunity. What I hear you saying is kind of like that old, not comparing the businesses, but the strategies, like that Walmart mentality. I'm going to go where there's no competition.
Yep.
I'm going to go out into an area where there's not an H&R Block, a Liberty Tax, and all these other accounting firms on every corner. I can actually go out there and create relationships and become the biggest fish in this pond, which then allows you to continue to grow.
Exactly. And that's precisely why I went for the firm that I went for. It was a win-win, right? He needed to retire. He needed a way out. I looked at it as a way for me to grow, and there's an existing client base in place. It's a profitable client base. So it's a win-win right away. And then on top of that, right, I get a building in the mix.
Yeah, so not only did you purchase the business, but the real estate came along with that. What did that look like? Because on the residential resale side and the just call it residential rental side, I don't get a lot of experience with office complexes and things like that. So what was that like buying a business that came along with the real estate?
Honestly, it's not a lot different than buying a house.
Okay.
Right? So keep in mind, this is a smaller commercial property. It's not a large office building. It's one floor.
What square footage?
About 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
Right? So No different than a house in this standpoint. You can get inspections, you can do the similar process and steps, or you can just kind of go outright and buy it. This guy has all the maintenance records that he's done, when he got his new roof, when he got plumbing done, all of it. So it's like, okay, I kind of look at that and say, I don't need necessarily the inspection like I would for a residential one where you don't know when things were done, right?
Right.
Plus, he's involved for the next 2 years. So I've got him around to help with that.
So that gets me interested too, because I think about forecasting here, right? There's a lot of people, especially coming out of a pandemic, that they own this business. This was their livelihood. This was their baby. They built this thing up, but they're becoming of an age where they're ready to retire. And like you said, they're either going to have to let their clients just dwindle off into some other firm, which there's not many in that area. Right. Or they need to sell this business to somebody else. So did you find him, or did he advertise? And
so he was advertising through a broker. And that broker reached out to me and said, hey, you've been looking for the last 2 years. I think I've got one. And so that started that relationship, right? And I took, I don't know, probably 60, 90 days of visiting, coming out and kind of seeing how they operate, and is that something I can work within, right? Because I'm the sole practitioner coming into a practice with employees, right? Even though I'm the acquirer, you don't just come in and rule with an iron fist and say, we're going to do it my way.
Right. Yeah, you kind of have to come in a little softer, come from curiosity, seek to understand first. And I'm assuming that since this practice was, let's call it rural, and let's call it, it bloomed in a different age of technology.
Oh, absolutely.
That you're kind of coming into this, and there might be paper files where you're dealing with electronic files. So I'm guessing you're kind of modernizing this a little bit. So what's that process look like, bringing something like that up to?
That's the biggest challenge right now, right? Is how do we go from, we'll call antiquated or kind of 80s, early 90s systems into today, right? So there is plenty of paper. You know, when we were going through the whole due diligence process, the previous owner was saying, oh, we've modernized over the years. Like, okay, I'll look at it. Really haven't. Okay,
it's like I updated my kitchen and they updated it in 1992.
Right. So you know, I'll use an example. Everybody knows what Quickbooks is. Right?
Yep.
It's got 80% market share in the United States. Thing is Quickbooks is trying to sunset the desktop version, right? Okay. So the thing that you load in and you install it and you've got to get on a PC to do, they're sunsetting that and moving into QuickBooks Online as their primary platform, right?
So it's more dynamic. It's not this.
It's cloud-based, right? So I can continue. I can work on it from anywhere I am in the world,
and it's updated forever.
Right. Yeah.
There's no downloading new software.
No new software every year, and it's constantly updated, right? Well, their entire book of business is on QuickBooks Desktop, and that was their modern thing. So they're swapping files from one to another. They're manually keying in bank data. Like, so all this, when you look at it from an accounting firm perspective, is lost margin. Mm-hmm. Every bit of that is lost margin because it's time, right? Our cost is time. Mm-hmm. So how do I modernize that? Well, the first thing is I bring in new technology, new software, right? So the existing staffs never use these online tools. So, hey, you have to get trained. And they're still in the process of training for both QuickBooks Online and Xero, which is the actually primary platform that I prefer to put clients on, right? So they're doing their training on that. As soon as that training's done, then we have to go through conversions, right? So we've got to take the existing client base, convert it over into those two platforms. And clients don't get a say in this because we're the ones that eat the software costs, so it doesn't matter.
So how many employees did you inherit in this? Because some of them didn't stay.
Only one, and she was the office manager, and she was actually retiring anyway.
She was on her way out anyway.
73 years old, came back to help out one more season and said, hey, I really, really want to retire. Best part is she does dress alterations on the side, and my daughter went to her first prom this year and needed a dress alteration, so I'm like, hey, I got you. So
that's beautiful.
It was worked out well.
So you retained the majority of the employees, already knowing that one was going to be on their way out, so that's good. When you acquire this business, I can only imagine the clients had been loyal to the previous owner for so long, and that's why you're keeping the previous owner on. Right. How are you retaining the majority of that business too?
So far, we've retained everybody. Right. Wow. Now we've gone through our first round of fee changes. Right. So they're an hourly billing system. Mm-hmm. I'm a fixed fee. Right. So you pay one fee every month, And that it's for all your services, whatever those services are, right? Whether it's bookkeeping, CFO services, tax services, or payroll, right? You're going to get one fixed fee that encompasses all of that. Mm-hmm. And so they're now getting these first-time bills from me that say, hey, it's X amount. And one got sticker shock and called. And it was a very good conversation. I wasn't getting yelled at, and there was nothing like that. But it's, hey, so I want you to understand where we're coming from. We want to create predictable expenses for you so that you're not up and down every month wondering, why is my accounting bill $800 this month, $200 this month, $1,200, right? And it fluctuates.
It allows them to budget better.
So they get a fixed budget. And likewise, us as a firm, we can budget, right? Because we know what our revenue stream is going to be every month, right? It's a lot easier to plan when we can plan that way. And it's a lot easier for you, the client, to plan when you know it's going to be X, right? So let's just pick an easy number and say it's $500 a month for whatever we're doing for you, right? So it's boom. Every month I know. So I know on the year, right? What is that? $3,600 a year, something like that. $6,000 a year. I can't do that.
I think it's a brilliant idea that you're keeping the previous owner on, because that allows that continuity. It allows a nice feathering and overlay into the new system. Probably helps the employees transition a little bit better.
I think it helps the clients more so than the employees. And that's where it's really important, is they still can see and hear and feel him as they meet me, right? So all new sales meetings are met with both of us.
Right.
All client meetings now are met with both of us, right? Whether it's on the phone, on the screen, or in person, we do it all there. Mm-hmm. And also being in a rural community, there's a lot more in person than I'm used to.
What businesses like the CFO services, accounting, what businesses like that do you feel like there's a potential of the changing of the guard, if you will? Like you bought out a guy who's retiring, who had his own firm. Are there other like firms or industries that you think? Because I look at real estate investing, there's a lot of people who own a lot of residential multifamily properties that I would be interested in buying that, maybe they're kind of getting tired of it. They want to, hand things over. So are there other industries that you feel like might be more prime for that?
The ones I see the most are restaurants, actually, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those are the ones that turn over and
the
turn
mom
over
and
turn over,
pops
right?
Stuff.
It's like they've worked in it for 30, 40 years. They're tired. They're ready to move on. Their restaurant's built a good brand in the community, and so they need a way out. And again, those things, they don't go for much, right? You're not even looking at a top line number that it's a multiple of. It's probably a multiple of their prime profit, which we can go all into what prime profit is. I don't care. That's not what this podcast is about. So we'll keep going. But the other ones would be professional service firms, right? So because professional service firms that's what I am. I'm a professional service firm. Mm-hmm. They are largely built on the back of 1, 2, 3 owners, right? And then how do I get out? I have to find a way to get out. Getting out means selling my book of business, if you will, to somebody else. A lawyer, right? They have that same problem.
Well, I think about like companies too. Like you've got these smaller mom and pop home services.
Yeah.
Plumbing, electric. Bob's Electric. If I'm an electrician and
garages.
Yeah, mechanics.
Yep.
Yeah, stuff like that. And you see more and more opportunities these days for a company who's doing well. They've got systems, standard operating procedures, like you're talking about doing with yours, and they can actually bring another company under their umbrella. Instant book of business. You've got those previous clients that are there. It
is, but the one thing like I'll say in struggling, and I'm glad you said systems and SOPs, right, is you've got your systems, you've got your SOPs in place, right? So our standard operating procedures, they may or may not have that, right? So now we're introducing this into the mix, and what it causes friction. It will
slows the gears down a little
inevitably cause friction, right? Whether it's friction with clients, friction with existing employees, it's going to exist. So how do you step into that, right? And so we're taking a very measured approach to that, where it's just one thing at a time, So for us, it starts with the books, right? So we're implementing my SOPs that are going to ensure that there's executable and deliverables in a time frame that's acceptable to me, number one, and 2, to the client, right? Because if we give you a set of books that's 60 days behind, what's that do for you?
Yeah.
There's no actionable information.
It's not usable information.
Right. So it's getting to the point where we're updating everything on a weekly basis so that clients now have access to information and we can actually help them out. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's the struggle you'll have when you acquire something, is you're going to have their SOPs versus yours, or maybe no SOPs, and you have to get to a point where you've got them. So that's what we're doing right now.
Well, and that speaks to, everybody's got their systems, and in my world, setting proper expectations with clients, because I might pick up a client that the last time they sold a house was 5 to 10 years ago. Their agent did things a certain way. Maybe it was right, maybe it wasn't. But educating your customer, whether you just bought a firm or they're a new customer to you.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people just, customers in, here, sign this, sign that, and then you're going to lose a bunch of customers because you didn't take the time to educate them on what your procedures are.
Exactly.
Changing gears, because I started to go into this because it's something that I'm super excited about right now, but you and I had talked about, you were thinking about investing in real estate, or it entices you for all the reasons that real estate investing is a good idea. Let's mix that in with the conversation about what's going on in the market right now.
Sure.
So I filled up my gas tank yesterday. I paid $4.80 a gallon.
Yep. A lot of this afternoon.
A lot of people filled up their gas tank. You drive a hybrid, or you own hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles and things like that. I've not caught on to that, and a lot of people are out there filling up their gas tanks, and it's a lot. A lot of people are paying more for things like cereal, toothpaste, meat, like food.
Everything. Yeah.
So inflation's going up. And not to mention, real estate interest rates on a 30-year mortgage went from, 3 months ago, we were shopping around at 3.75%, 4%, somewhere in there.
5.5.
Now we're at 5.5, 5.75, depending on down payment and credit score. So is real estate investing still something you're interested in?
Yeah, I don't see why. Those are kind of, I'll call micro issues, right? So
this too shall pass kind of thing?
Absolutely. I get in today at, let's call it 6%, right? Okay, cool. What's 5 years from now, right? I don't know, but I got to believe it's going to be in a better environment than I am today, right? So then what? I can refinance the deal. So cash flow is tighter today, or it requires more money down up front so that I can hit the same cash flow number I want, right?
Right.
Otherwise, okay, I have to bite the bullet today, have a thinner margin at the end of the day, because really at the point where I want to be with real estate investing is, I don't care about the cash flow right now. I care about building wealth for the future. Mm-hmm. So as long as the cash flow is enough to cover everything, right, then I'm indifferent.
Yep.
So that I know better markets are going to exist where I can refinance. I could sell, find a bigger place, right? So I buy a 4-unit. Cool. Actually, I don't want a 4-unit. I upgrade to a 10, I upgrade to a 20, and so on, right? So, no, I'm a believer, let's start with something 10 or higher.
Yeah. So, I'm getting a ton of calls, probably in the last 2 weeks, that, what should we be doing right now? Like, should we just, is the market crashing? What's going on? I'm like, just hold on for a second. And I think I had a post I put out there yesterday or the day before, and I was just like, look, guys, don't freak out.
Yep.
Like, what we're experiencing, like you said, it's a micro issue. And the first question that I ask people when they say, what should I be doing right now? Like, should I buy or should I wait? My question is, okay, you buy your next house. How long do you plan on being there?
Precisely.
Like, if you're thinking, I'm going to buy this house and be out of it in 2 years, my advice after a few more questions might lean on, are you happy where you are? What's your interest rate where you are right now? Mm-hmm. Can you see yourself just kind of hanging on? Right? Mm-hmm. What got you interested in selling your house and moving in the first place? Is it you want to be closer to your kid's school? You want to be closer to daycare, mom and dad, closer to work? Or do you just
want to cash out that equity that's in there?
Or do you just want to cash out the equity? Because if you stretch out the real estate market and you look at historical averages on appreciation of home values, 3 to 4% is about the average of where things are going to fall. 2019 to 2022, 15 to 16% appreciation per year.
Unrealistic.
You'd have to be a fool to think that that's going to last long term. Mm-hmm. We knew today was coming.
Yep.
So if I'm asked what's going on in the market right now, we're going through a temporary reset. Mm-hmm.
And you might lose some of the unrealized value you've gotten. I don't think we'll really lose that much, though.
I don't think we're going to lose any real value.
No.
I think we're losing that FOMO value.
Exactly.
That value that buyers put on a piece of real estate that says, I don't want to miss out. I've got to have it. Here's an extra $20,000 just to make sure I get this house today.
Right.
We're going to lose out on that. However, it's a healthy real estate market when homes should not sell in 3 hours.
No.
For $50,000 more than what they're asking for it. Now, again, the long curve is going to protect you. You'll get it back eventually. It's just how long are you going to be in the house?
Well, back in 2018 when we sold, I mean, our house, you say 4 hours. I think it was less than an hour. Was listed and sold. I'm like, and again, above ask, right? Like, holy cow, that was insane.
But I mean, if we look at the real estate investing side of things, right? So you're purchasing an asset. Let's say that we put 20% down on a, I don't know, call it a residential. It's not 5 and up units. It's just 4 and down. 20% down on a $250,000 apartment building. And I'm going to hold this thing as long as I need to. I'm going to depreciate the asset, so I'm getting depreciation on my taxes. The tenant is paying for the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. I'm getting a little cash flow, not a ton if I'm paying today's prices. I'm getting a little cash flow. 5 years from now, interest rates are 5 to 6%, maybe, probably kind of settled in there a little bit. I've got a lot more equity because the tenant has paid down some value. I've got a little bit more cash in my pocket. I refinance the thing. I drop the payment. Now I have more cash flow every month. I can play that game, all day long. So real estate investing is not it's not a bad time. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of people who are holding on to a lot of property right now that may end up selling in the future, or 1031 exchanging or whatever they need to do.
Like you said, it's that whole thing of people may be looking to exit this at this point, right? I'm 65, 75 years old. I don't need to be in the business of owning all this assets anymore.
I know you and I, for those who are watching, we would love to talk to anybody who's tired of owning their portfolio.
Heck yeah.
Because I'm willing to pay, like right now, I'm willing to pay today's interest rates at a fair market value for somebody's rental portfolio as long as the numbers make sense. And I think there's a lot of people out there who would be. So,
and hell, I'm even interested in syndicating with people.
Dude, I had it. So Josh Appleman, Appleman Properties, he was in here yesterday on the show. That episode will be coming out here soon. We were talking about, he just bought a 48-unit building. He's doing value add. I think he's putting in $8,900 per unit. And that he does his per unit cost. You'd probably get a kick out of talking to him because he's very detailed and he knows his numbers. But his $8,900 per unit cost includes exterior. So he took all of his exterior expenses
and divided it by the
on
units.
A per unit cost. So it allows him to evaluate things on a very per unit basis, which your income comes in per unit.
Exactly.
So like you said, you bill on a flat basis. He kind of puts everything on the same playing field. He doesn't just have one big lump sum for the outside and then unitize the inside. So. But syndicating deals, that's where, if we had a resource for somebody providing these large multifamily properties and we have people who want to invest, but they don't want any of the headache of maintaining them or acquiring them, there's a synergy right there. You put it together.
It's a huge opportunity for people who are interested in that space, right? And you're not getting the hard sell of, I'm not going to mention any gurus' names.
Right.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's several syndicators out there that are very well known. However, I mean, it's kind of like, if you could say syndication is like a GoFundMe for real estate, except for the GoFundMe, you get an interest, you get paid back in dividends for what you put in there. So it's almost like a shared effort of investing, kind of thing, a mutual.
It's an easy way for people to get access to the real estate market with lower risk, right? Because you're only putting in a fraction of the down payment, right? So let's say you risk $10,000 on a $5 million deal. I mean, I'd get in on that.
Right. Well, and a lot of times too, the returns are better than inflation and they're better than market returns. And there's really no maintenance.
Nope.
You don't have to do anything.
It's fire and forget, and then you collect cash flow.
Yeah. So, real estate investing is still king in my book because I can touch it, I can feel it, I understand it. Crypto's out there. It's kind of in this recession cycle right now.
Not a fan.
It's so volatile. It's still early.
It's speculative, man. There's, I heard the number the other day. I think there's like 2,000 coins out there, right? And they're
different types of
coins, right? So you only know about the big dogs that are out there. If it's on Coinbase, then it's considered a big dog coin at this point, right?
Right.
But there's all these little ones that are built on these back-end blockchains, right, that are all typically tied to Ethereum. great. How do you know that's going to pick up? So it's all super speculative, and I stay away from super speculative stuff.
So,
if you want to be speculative, just go invest in some startup.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, crypto investing is highly volatile. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that they pump it up and like, oh my gosh, I made so much money on this coin. And then you hear equal number, if not more number of people who got in and they're like, I don't believe in it. I lost my shirt. Yep. I lost $10,000 in 6 months in the crypto market. And it's because it's speculative. People invest in it and they don't understand it. Mm-hmm. With a piece of real estate, I can see it's there. I can see what maintenance it needs. Mm-hmm. I can see who's renting it. I can control that. And then, so the real estate investing thing is just a more secure, long-term passive play.
Now, I do think, though, in your real estate market, there's going to be a shift, not to digital currency, but to digital payment, right?
I'd be for that.
And well, there's actually a startup in Cincinnati here that they're going to process $1 billion of total dollar volume transaction digitally for the real estate marketplace this year. I wish I could have the name of it off the top of my head, but I was just reading the article this morning. I'm like, holy cow, that's a game changer.
Well, so in terms of digital stuff, right? So back in 1990s, the internet became a thing, mm-hmm. and it sped up communication. It sped up information. And now we put a house on the market. It goes live. There's showings in the first hour. There's offers in the first 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Contracts are written very quickly. And it takes weeks for a title search to come back.
Yeah, that's got to speed up.
So I believe with technology like the blockchain, the ledger, and all that stuff, that technology, like the internet back in the early 90s, is going to speed up what we do in the real estate industry. And mm-hmm. it's going to make it more secure. So I do believe that the blockchain technology, and I believe that certain digital technology will speed things up. You'll be able to close on a piece of real estate sitting in your living room.
Yep.
Based because you have the password and the tokens or whatever you've got.
Yep.
Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky will probably catch on 10 years after the rest of the world does, just like everything else. But the thing is that the market technology will impact what we're able to do.
Absolutely.
With that. So going into real estate agency side of things, mm-hmm. you manage my books. You have my payroll for my employees. I have learned a ton just being one of your clients on what to do, what not to do, mm-hmm. how to run a business. You're not just somebody who files my taxes.
Appreciate that.
Although filing my taxes is not a walk in the park,
no.
You're not just that to me. You give me feedback and you give me profit and loss statements, and I'm actually able to run the business like a business to the best of my ability. But seeing other real estate agents out there, I'm mm-hmm. not the only agent you've partnered with, but for the agents that are watching that kind of keep tabs on what we're doing here at Real Estate Momentum, what are some mistakes people make, or some things that you would recommend that agents get their act together on?
Well, I think first and foremost is actually having a set of books, right? I think so many agents, first let me say so many agents. I think, one, that the real estate agent market has changed to where you guys are a lot more team-driven, right? Which is good. But each agent still is responsible for their own income. Mm-hmm. And what they're not doing is tracking their income and expenses. It's like, okay, I got paid. And then what, right? They don't have a budget. They don't have necessarily goals laid out in front of them. And that's key, right? Set a budget from the beginning of the year. Like, okay, I'm going to do X number of transactions, X number of closings. It's going to turn into this number of commissions coming into me, right? And I'm going to have a marketing spend, because if I don't market, nobody's going to know who the heck I am, right? Mm-hmm. I got to know how much I'm going to pay myself, right? And actually, I would start with that. How much do I want to make? How much do I want to take home? Because that's got to drive everything else, right?
Right. You have to know how much you want to make to be able to target how many contacts to make, how many, all the way down to how many open houses and how many whatever.
But the problem is I see so many that don't have that in place. Mm-hmm. And it's just fly by the seat of my pants. Okay, I made money this month. Oh, man, I'm losing money. What do I do? You've got to be disciplined.
Well, and, so a little bit of like peek behind the curtain here, right? A lot of people don't understand that as a 1099 independent contractor who floats around and sells property all over a region, mm-hmm. that in Northern Kentucky, I've got to file for a business license in every municipality that I sell a house in.
Yes, you do.
So Kenton County has a business license for all of the cities.
Except for Covington.
Except for Covington, and Covington has their own thing. Bellevue, Dayton,
Newport, then Campbell County.
Wilder has their own thing.
Yeah.
And, Boone County, Florence has their own thing.
At least Ohio, you just kind of go, you're in Ohio, you have an Ohio.
Yeah, Hamilton County kind of thing.
That's it.
So a lot of people don't understand that when we have a sale, right? So the first thing that happens out of my sale is my real estate broker wants a piece of it, which is fine. They're a great business partner. I love paying EXP until I hit my cap, and then I get to keep the rest of it, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, after the broker takes their part, then I've got to set aside a percentage for expenses, because I pay rent, I have employees, I have all that. Then I set aside money for taxes after expenses. Mm-hmm. And then I get to keep whatever's left to feed my family, put $4.80 gas in my vehicles and whatever else, buy a $10 pack of hot dogs or whatever thing. I get to keep the rest, right? But a lot of agents, they're thinking, okay, oh man, I just got a deposit in my bank account. I got a $3,000 commission after my broker took their piece.
Let's go to Ruby's.
Let's go to Jeff. Let's go celebrate and buy a $100 bottle of champagne. Let's go buy something. And then at the end of the year, it's like, what do you mean I have to pay taxes on that? Mm-hmm. And they get in trouble.
And then it's a massive burden, right? And they're like, wait, you mean I got to pay $30,000 in taxes this year? Like, yeah, you had a great year. I don't have that. Huh. So if you would have talked to me throughout the course of the year, we would have had this problem fixed.
Yeah. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yep.
So what happens when somebody doesn't have enough gas in the tank to pay their taxes?
IRS has payment plans.
Okay.
As does all the states and municipalities. They want the money. They're going to work with you to get there. Now, just like everything with a payment plan, there's interest involved, right? So you're going to be paying some inherent interest rate in this thing, which you really would opt to rather not do. So it really comes down, like I say, proper planning prevents poor performance, right? The 5 Ps, right? So if we have a set of books, right, we're tracking this stuff throughout the course of the year, then we can say, okay, it's March, right? We're looking at your first quarter numbers. All right, looks like we need to put in $7,500, right, for your federal liability. It's a mathematical formula that we can go through and say, hey,
and that's a conversation that you and I have. It's like, hey, here's your sales for the first quarter. It looks like you had this many expenses. Are there any other expenses that aren't on here? What about this? Is this an expense? And you're like, no, Aaron, you can't deduct that.
Right.
And then we come up with a number and say, okay, here's your after expense income. So you need to make a tax payment of this. We make the tax payment at the end of the year. We settle up, but we're usually close.
Yep.
Unless I've had a really good year and didn't tell you about it.
Just do me a favor and don't get your tax advice on TikTok. All right. There's tons of TikTok tax advisors out there. There's 2 that I've seen that actually are accurate.
Well, and some of it's local based stuff too, right? So you can't just give broad advice when there's certain tax laws.
Well, most of them, they're all focused on the federal side, right? They're not worried about this local thing. Mm-hmm. And you're like, did you just say that? Oh my gosh, you're insane, right? So yeah, just don't get your advice off TikTok, please.
Gotcha. So any other advice that you would give to real estate agents or investors that maybe you've seen people make mistakes on?
Like I said, the biggest one is you're not budgeting. 2, get tax advice early. If you are getting into the real estate space, go ahead and get tax advice, because to your point, how many of them know they need, at least in our market, occupational licenses in every freaking municipality out there? They don't, right?
Even if you own you own one single family property in the city of Covington or Florence, you need to have an occupational license to run that business, because that is a business.
It's a business. And then you'll run afoul with the locals, right? If you put a sign in somebody's yard and somebody from the Department of Revenue drives by and sees your name, they can just look you up. Oh, doesn't have a business license. I'm going to ding this guy, right? You don't want that. You don't want the penalty. So that's why I say get tax advice early from the get-go.
Got it. Well, thank you guys for watching Real Estate Momentum. This has been Chris Rogers with AEH Accounting. Stay tuned for more.